Okay, let's take a small tour of the Microsoft Project 2010 interface. This version of Microsoft Project, i.e. 2010, has changed its menu system completely. It now has the ribbons that are totally associated with Office 2007. And we can see at the top, we have our ribbons headed up File, Task, Resource, Project, View. So the File ribbon suddenly becomes vertical rather than horizontal, and they are the options that you would normally expect: save, save as, open, close, recent, new, print, and share. The Task ribbon has on all the options that you would expect or associate to be able to do with tasks. So formatting the table view, changing the view, moving tasks around, changing the information of tasks, tracking tasks, etc. The Resource tab has all the icons on that you'd expect for resourcing, so assigning resources, visiting the resources, leveling the resources. The Project ribbon has all the options to do with the overall project, so looking at the project information, inserting other projects, changing the working time, calculating the project, and reporting. And the View tab allows us to change the view we're looking at, sort, filter, change the table, turn off the timeline, etc. This last ribbon that is currently there is actually a sub-ribbon of the Gantt chart tools. The only reason we are seeing that is because we are currently in the Gantt chart view. If I were to click inside this timeline, which is a new feature to 2010, you'll see that that changes the timeline tools format. And these are the options for then formatting the timeline. Whereas if I move into here, it becomes Gantt chart tools, and I have all the options for formatting the Gantt chart. So this final ribbon is a context sensitive ribbon depending on where you are. And you will find that if we change to a different view, so the calendar view, you'll find we get calendar tools format, and we have different options. So it's very context sensitive for where you are. Now the ribbons can be compressed just by double clicking any one of the headings, and you'll see they now look like menu items, but they are still in fact ribbons, but just hidden. And then you single click for that ribbon to pop back. However, that just pops back temporarily. So I move away into there, the ribbon disappears again in its auto hide facility. To make them come back permanently, I need to double click, and you'll see it fixes itself at the top of the screen, so that if I then click into the document, the options remain. So that's double click to hide it effectively, single click to view, and that works in any of the ribbons. But that's only temporary, because back in the document the ribbon disappears. It's double click to force it back into a fixed position. The last ribbon is a context sensitive ribbon depending on what view you're currently looking at. New to 2010 is the timeline feature. If I expand that slightly, this section here is your timeline, and you can move along left and right. You can see how that's moving this window here, the Gantt chart window. Now by default, no tasks are displayed in the timeline, unlike the Gantt chart which displays all the tasks. You have to add items to the timeline. So if I were to pick on Fit Sync, right click, there is an option to add to timeline. It then appears in the timeline at the right location. So I can see it's 3rd of Feb. So I move across to February. You see it's that little task there, Fit Sync. So you can add or choose whichever task you want to be displayed in the timeline. Probably the more important ones, or the phases. So the timeline will only display those tasks that you choose to add to there. So you might choose to add a whole phase. So let's say the fitting phase, right click, add to timeline, and I can see that it appears here. I can even take that fitting phase and choose detailed timeline from the timeline tools format context sensitive ribbon, and within the detailed timeline things get expanded a little more, and I can take sections and say that to be displayed as a call out, so it appears above. As I've already got one there, that then looks messy. So display as bar, fit to QZ bath. I can remove it from the timeline. Fitting phase I can display as call out, and then it's above the timeline grey bar. Obviously that then tends to take quite a bit of the screen up, but this is quite useful as a sort of summary tasky area to then print or to send on to someone to say, This is where we're at, and this is what we're going to be doing without all the minute tasks like fit sink, fit bidet, fit shower tray. And that's a condensed timeline. So that's a new feature to 2010, and by default is displayed below the ribbons. If obviously you don't want it at all, on the View tab you can just remove the tick from timeline, and we go back to sort of slightly older style without that timeline there. So the new 2010 layout uses the ribbons associated with 2007, and obviously will be the standard layout for Office products from now on, I think. You have your ribbon titles, and within each ribbon you have all the icons that are associated, hopefully, with that particular option. We have this context sensitive ribbon at the end that will appear dependent on the area you're currently investigating or looking to customize. So it's File, Task, Resource, Project, View, and then the Customize ribbon. You still also have the tiny shortcut ribbon up there, which is accessible from the tiny drop down menu at the end that allows you to place on your own shortcut icons. So Print Preview, Undo, Redo, and Save are there already. I might wish to add New and Open to that quick access bar that appears right at the top of the screen. You will see that later on in another module we look at how to customize further not only that quick access bar but also the ribbons that you've been given.